Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Same Old Arsenal podcast. Hope you're doing very, very well on this fine Thursday evening. Coming to you at the slightly later time this evening. First and foremost, apologies to some of the people in the chat room. We had a few slight technical difficulties and we didn't want to do a show that wasn't quite going to come out as well as we wanted it to. So we just wanted to iron out those creases. And here we are now. We're in full flow, full production. JJ, same old Arsenal after dark, mate. A little bit of a different one, isn't it?
I know, but we'll still keep it. I know PG isn't here, but we will keep it PG in terms of the content for people.
No, I know you've just not long come off a podcast, mate.
I know.
Who was it you were with?
I was with friend of the show, Albert JTV. So you've always, you can't say no to Albert if he asks you. He's one of, if not Arsenal content creators, lovely people. He's one of the world's lovely people. So.
He certainly is, like you say, friend of the show and just an all-round lovely bloke. What sort of stuff was on the agenda tonight? Not that I'm not gonna steal any talking points. Just let's just get Albert's name out there.
Yes, so he did his life stories show. Nothing to do with another Arsenal fan's life stories content, if he's watching, if he's lingering and wants to, try and sue. And he just asked varying questions about your history of supporting Arsenal and football, and then some stuff about what you think about social media and the platform as well, which was hopefully, if people did watch it, they found it interesting and enjoyed. I see a few in the chat that have actually come over, so it's all very good.
Lovely stuff, and welcome to all of those that have joined us in the chat room. Plenty of people coming along tonight. Hello to, of course, lovely host PG. Hope you're doing well. Fiona Scott. Hope you're doing very well. Fiona Barry Bird. Hope you're doing well. And Yamara G. Hope you're doing well. And Jason Smith. Seen JJ quite a few times in Chelsea.
Oh God! Hello, Jason. Say hello because I don't know you, so I feel a bit unnervy, but I'm sure you're a lovely person. So if you do see me, say hello.
Yeah, I think if he'd have said, I've seen JJ once in Chelmsford, but the fact he's seen you a few times, could that be twice? Could that be 10 times?
I do frequent Tesco's quite a bit.
Maybe he works there.
Could well be. And yeah, like Amanda said, he is famous in good old. I am a big name in Chelmsford.
The Jesus of Chelmsford.
Not by choice, but yeah, I am known in my ends. That's the kids say.
Anyway,
I'm 32. I can't be saying stuff like ends and that anymore. I've got to,
I don't know, mate. I think you play it off pretty nicely, mate. But
thank you.
Look, we're here to talk Arsenal. We've not done that in 3 minutes just yet. It's a big one this weekend. Obviously, we've been pretty. I don't know about you. I've been bored to tears with the international break.
Goodness.
I mean, I felt like after the United game, there was such euphoria that I did kind of welcome the international break reluctantly because I was like, okay, go off on a high, come back in 2 weeks, hit the ground running again. We've got this game, we've got PSV, we've got Spurs coming up. All 3 of those we'll be doing previews for, by the way. We've got JJ booked in for each and every single one. And I mean, Everton away after the international break is never an ideal fixture. It's a ground that I don't think we've won at in a long time. Seven fixtures, I think it is, at Goodison Park, and we failed to get a win. I might be wrong on that, but I think it's something bad, basically. We all know how it went last season. Their first game under newly appointed Sean Dyche. Horrible game, really, really horrible. That came at a point when we were absolutely flying and they looked absolutely horrendous, and yet we still couldn't go there and get a result. So I remember when we did a show after the United game, and I actually previewed and predicted that we would win this game 4-0. I just think that there's got to come a point where we've got to get over this hoodoo over Everton away. They're a physical side. It can be a bit of an intimidating ground, but Everton, for me, have very much picked up on the same way they left off last season. They're still not looking great. They've not particularly had a great summer. They've lost Alex Iwobi, who was a pretty key figure for them last season, as we know, former Arsenal boy. I don't think they're up to much, to be honest. And if we don't go and win this game, I'm going to be really disappointed. How do you feel about it, mate?
Oh, I'm exactly the same. I mean, I want Arsenal to win every game, James, as you well know. But looking at Everton at the moment, okay, they got a very very good draw against Sheffield United, but the standard in that game, mate. If Sheffield United are scoring 2 goals against you, we got with what we've got, we got to be able to beat these. We just I don't want to. If there's anyone that's an Evertonian in the chat, and I know Super Kev might be lingering as well, I don't want to diminish Everton so badly. But and I'm not saying we're going to win this at a canter. I think it's actually going to be a very tough game. But we've got to have enough in the tank to beat Everton, surely.
Yeah, I mean, Everton's downfall really has been such a weird one for me because about a decade ago, they looked like they were in a really good place. I
Yeah.
remember when they had Lukaku up front, Kevin Mirallas. I remember when we went there in the 2013-14 season and they played Lukaku on the wing against Nacho Monreal and just absolutely tore us apart. I still have nightmares of that game. But to see them go from a team that was, hovering around top four and was always, kind of in and around the top six to now be a team that in the past 2 seasons has just scraped out of the relegation battle. I find it really weird. And you look at their team, and there's just like a lot of has-been players in there. I don't know about you, but I still can't believe that they bought Ashley. Well, didn't buy, but they acquired Ashley Young. And I thought I was under the impression that he would kind of be a bit part player in their squad. Started every game. It's crazy. Like they are in such a bad situation in terms of the financials that they can't properly spend in a transfer market. And then, they've brought back the likes of Idrissa Gana Gueye, who's not a bad player, but he's getting on a bit. I don't think they've got any real threat up front, to be honest, but they'll probably still find a way of scoring against us. Like you
Well,
say,
they've got that new striker that played against Sheffield United, Beto, James, and we're the club that give people careers. Neil Mellor still gets drinks bought for him because of that goal he scored for Liverpool against us all them years ago. We just let people have these chances, and he looks like he might. Everton's problem is they don't score enough goals, and he looks like he can hold the ball up relatively well. But then they've just got nobody, they've just got nobody that. I mean, Dan Juma, as far as I knew him, he was always a centre mid. They're playing him out wide. Like it's. I mean, a lot of people, especially Arsenal fans, we say a lot about the Cronkies, but be careful what you wish for because Everton, they had Mashiri and everything else, and they've just spent money so badly over the years, James. They're
yeah, I
they're
think,
they're, they're fans, okay. I don't advocate ever, trying to physically assault your owners or what have you, but football's so important in that part of the world, and football's a lot of what it's all they've got. Some of them, it's their solace, and to see it ruined the way it has been, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. But I've got no room for sentiment. Respect is an advantage that your opponent does not deserve, James. So we got to go out there and do our thing and take them. Go for the jugular, as people would say. I know you want the 4-0, so better get it done.
So why is it you think that we struggle at a place like Goodison Park? Because they're like the new Stoke for me. I remember when we would go up to Stoke and we would
Yeah.
get battered about, three-ish nil on a regular basis there. And, okay, there haven't quite been hammerings at Goodison Park, but, we have lost games quite convincingly, even if they've just been a 1-0 or a 2-1 or whatever it may be. I've never felt convinced when we went there. I certainly didn't when we went there last season. I never thought we imposed ourselves on the game. And that seems to have been the problem in every single recent fixture we've gone there ever since we went there in what was it 2017-18, and we won there about 5-2 or something like that. I can't remember another really emphatic victory. I think we won there during the COVID year, but apart from that, it's been really, really disappointing. So why is it from your point of view that we go there and we just don't turn up? We could be in such a rich vein of form, but we're just not getting a result that we should be putting on the table.
Yeah, I think it's a first and foremost, it's a very smaller type ground. It's one of them very old type grounds that the fans get right on you. And uh, as much as I feel we have improved in that aspect, there's still quite a little soft underbelly to Arsenal, sadly for me. And I do believe that, especially with Sean Dyche in charge, you get up Arsenal, we don't like it. There is a few players in there that will stand. Gabriel, Saliba, he can handle it. Declan Rice, I think, James. I don't want to jump the gun, but I think he'll be a massive, massive player for this. I think this is the kind of team, and I know he scored a big goal in a big game, but these sort of games as well are
He'll
where
love it.
Declan Rice, yeah, he's going to love it, and this is going to justify his fee. These kind of games are going to be horrible. They're going to be tough. His sort of progressive carrying and just his leadership, even though he hasn't got the physical embodiment of the captaincy, that sort of guide through games like this, he's going to be so important, James. And yeah, they're gonna try and kick seven colours of what out of us at the weekend, mate. And I just hope we're ready for it. I know a lot of people have done their lineups, and I know you'll touch on that a bit later, so I won't jump the gun there. But yeah, we just got to be ready, mate. As far as I know, everyone come back from internationals okay. There's the Saka stuff about the Achilles, but he's not gonna be rested for this one, mate. So
Yeah, and I mean, look, we talk about Everton being a physical side, and I've seen a lot of comments in the chat
well,
about
they're
them.
they're a borderline basketball team, James. They're massive. They're
But
not. They're
so are,
not only
so are
physical.
we,
They're
mate.
so big.
So are we. You look at our team. You've already mentioned a few of them there:
Yeah,
Saliba, Gabriel, Ben White to an extent. We've got Declan Rice. Kai Havertz if you're throwing him into the mix. But then you've got guys as well that maybe necessarily aren't the tallest, but they have got that grit to fight and battle. The likes of Jesus, Saka, Martinelli. They can all do it. Erdegaard I'd throw in there as well.
yeah,
So if we go there and we get out muscled, I think you know I don't want to put the season on a game like this, but it will, I think like what you're saying there, it will show that Arsenal do still have that soft underbelly because you look at these two teams man for man, there's absolutely no excuses not to win this game.
yeah. Agreed. Agreed. And I see a lot of stuff in the chat here about the games in the multiple, 3 in a week and everything else like that. You need to be getting 9 points because start your Champions League campaign. Got to win that. We've been 6 years without it. I know we're going to do a preview for that one, so I'll I'll rein it in. And then the North London derby, you can't lose that one, especially with the way they're going at the moment. They're thinking they're getting nosebleeds and vertigo. They're so high up. So we
No,
got
and,
we
and
got to nip them in the bud.
funnily enough, I mean, I know this season has felt a bit clunky. That's probably the best way to describe it. It's not felt like we've gotten going just yet. But if we win on Sunday and then we're to win in the North London derby, which isn't a given, but we've got a very good record against Spurs at home, but they have been good this season, so that could be a tricky game. But Spurs at home, you got to win it. We win those two games. We've actually had a better start than we did to the start of last season.
Exactly.
So that would be fantastic. We'd keep that unbeaten run going. But these are two games that we haven't played yet, and we've got PSV in the mix as well. So I'm actually going to start with the questions, guys. Please do put your questions in the chat room instead of leaving them to the end. I'm just going to intermittently go through them throughout the show as we've started a little bit later. But kicking it off with this first one from the ever-present Carl Stark. Hope you're doing well, mate. 4 games in 10 days, 5 in 13 days. Do you have confidence in Arteta's ability to rotate the squad and keep getting results? Great question.
Yes. Yeah. As I think now that most of the experimenting that he was doing because people weren't at full fitness or other reasons, that's been quashed with obviously the lineup and everything that happened for Man United. And I do believe that there is enough there now, and there's enough quality there now for everybody to get the minutes they need and to play. Obviously, I want to see more of the likes of Trossard and Smith Rowe, James. I think everybody does, and I do believe that will happen. You've got you got 3 games in the space of a week. You got 5 subs in all, so there's plenty of opportunity there to chop and change. It's just I still have some slight reservations about Arteta's timing in terms of changing things. and then the effect as well of game state. I feel sometimes he doesn't react as well to things that are happening. I looked at Fulham and we brought on Gabriel Jesus. I know he was injured and everything, but we brought him on very, very late. And you could see there that the likes of your Saka and your Ben White, their legs were gone. They had nothing left to give, but he still kept them on when they should have been swapped out. Odegaard, most subbed captain in the league. He's arguably our greatest player when we're chasing a game. If you remember last season, James, all those times where we had gone down, you look at Southampton. He single-handedly took that on the scruff of his neck to try and get that to a draw. Well, we did get it to a draw, but you know what I mean? He tried to push us on to even win it. It's stuff like that I still have my qualms with Mikel about. But if I don't back him, what's the point in even being here? You got to back him. You got to trust him, and I do believe he'll do it. The backroom staff at the moment. Steve Round had left, right? He was one of the only people there that would question, I believe, and say to Arteta, "Are you sure about this?" And there's other people there now. They've still got a voice. They've got a bigger presence. But I just hope that the experimentation of things has calmed down now, and he reverts to what got us 5 points away from winning a league. Let's not forget that. I think that he likes now that he's got more opportunities to be unpredictable, but if it's just being unpredictable for unpredictability's sake, James. Sorry, it took me a long time to get that out. I don't want to be doing that. I think there's plenty of players there to, like we said a minute ago, get all 9 points in these games coming up, and especially these 3 on Sunday.
So you mentioned it not too long ago, but we have heard about this potential Achilles problem with Bukayo Saka. I mean, he's a guy that started 38 out of 38 2 seasons in a row, which is mental for a kid of his age. And I think it shows his quality and importance to the team. And he's got himself into a position now where he is that good that you play him whenever he is available. He is one of the undroppables in this Arsenal team, unless something drastic goes wrong. But he's at a point now where he can have a bad game and that can still be a relatively good contribution to the team, or he can create that moment of magic where it's still could be absolutely game changing. But obviously, this isn't good news, far from it. But do you believe this is something that does pose a genuine concern, or is it just a case of he's got a slight niggle, he's been playing with it for a while now, and it's nothing to be too concerned about? Obviously, when we see the news, it sounds a lot worse than it probably is, but you don't want it to become a potential real issue.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. I think Arsene, didn't he? Bless him. He used to call it the red zone. And I think he's exceeding, he looks like the face that used to be on the old bottles of Tizer in terms of red zone, doesn't he? Saka at the moment. But it's tough because, like you said, the Fulham game and the Man United game, arguably, I didn't think Bukayo Saka played very well at all. Yeah, he scores a penalty. And then in the Man United one, he got the assist with the corner to Declan Rice. So he still gets numbers, even in games where he's not at his best. And I think Arteta will look at that and go, regardless of the problem, the quality can still outshine the problem. So it's very, very difficult. I think, James, is you can manage his minutes now, because beforehand, and I hate to remember those days, but it was literally like, unless Saka does something here, we ain't doing nothing. And he was 19. He was arguably our best player, and he was 19 years old. I mean, still very young now, but there is enough there now, to me anyway, that you don't have to play him every minute of every single game. You can move Jesus out there, and you can put Eddie up front. And I think putting Eddie and Jesus together, Jesus is very, very underrated crosser of the ball. To me, I think when he occupies that space on the right, he's got a very, very good cross. And you've seen Eddie, all right, he's not had the best of weeks. He got his England call up and it barely was on, was he? He was
at all.
Well, he's ahead in that Scotland game, still didn't bring him on. So he's probably chomping at the bit to be like, well, even though he didn't play me, I'm still hungry. I still want to go out there and I still want to play. And yeah, I think there's enough there, James, now that you do not have to play Saka for every minute of every game, but he will want to. So it's all about, like we said, managing the minutes. And if at any time he feels something and he's like, I want to come off, do it. Don't, or if you feel as a manager and you're watching it and you think, I'm going to take him off, he won't do the Salah where he rips off the tape and throws it type of stuff. I think Saka would understand.
Yeah, and I think it's also just going off on a bit of a tangent. It's interesting what you say about Nketiah there because he's had this fantastic England call up, which we were all buzzing about. We spoke about it in quite a bit of detail when he got the call up, and he's obviously gone away and he's seen Callum Wilson come on ahead of him, who's had a chance of England many a time. And Southgate's come out with this spiel about he wanted to see what Nketiah was made of. Well, maybe that just refers to training, but it would have been good in a game that we're winning against Scotland to have seen him come on. But I think it'd be interesting because if we bring him back, and obviously we've got Jesus back amongst it now, scored that great goal against United. If you bring him in and Saka plays, obviously Nketiah doesn't get into the side. Mentally, surely that's going to be quite challenging for Eddie if he's just had this, break with England where he's not gotten on the pitch for a single minute, and then he comes back to Arsenal and he finds himself on the bench again. Like, surely he must be there with his head in his hands a little bit.
Yeah, but I think, if I'm going to quickly jump the gun here, I think if you look at the opponent, James, as much as Eddie's improving in that department of his game, he has not got that tenacity, that hold up, and that strength like Jesus has got. And these are nasty big, Everton, nasty big boys at the back. They're rough and tumble type players. And I think you go to Eddie, look, you'll come on when they've got tired legs if you're not starting. But I'm going to go with Gabby for this one. But I will play you on Wednesday night. 6 years, we haven't been. You will be my nut. You'll play my starting striker in that PSV game, and Jesus will sit on the bench for that one. I think Eddie would go, yeah, all right then, because he'll definitely come on at Everton at some point, because they, like I said, they'll be tired, and he'd be perfect to bring him on in that sort of scenario. But yeah, I think like you said, he'll be upset. But if you say to him, you haven't got the start for this one, but you will start, which I believe will happen, I think he'll go, yeah, go on then. I'll have that.
Yeah, and I think you make a great point as well, because I completely forgot we've got PSV next week. And it's crazy that we've got all these games coming up. And this is the beautiful thing, because even though we've been a bit frustrated that the likes of Trossard, Emil Smith-Rowe and that cohort haven't really seen many minutes this season, they will now. They really will, because we've got this game coming up next week in the Champions League, our first game back in that tournament in God knows how long. And then we've got Spurs, which, you expect to see the routine 11. But then you've got Brentford away straight after that. So there's a lot of opportunity for these guys. So, yeah, I think you're right in saying that Eddie shouldn't, get too downbeat, because if he starts that PSV game, what a game to start as well. I mean, that first game back at the Emirates Stadium in the Champions League, that's going to be a magical game for whoever starts it. But one player who's gone a little bit under the radar, who has returned to full first team training, is Mohamed Elneny. Obviously, I think we're probably both just of the opinion that he's not going to play a massive role for us this season. But, he's a very likable guy. For me, still a guy that should be moved on. I hate to say, I don't want to sound too negative, but I do think we've moved beyond Mohamed Elneny. But to see him back amongst the group, he is a useful player. I will say that much. I do think, when you're closing out a game and you've got 10 minutes left, if you just want a guy to run around at full pelt and just put tackles in and put his heart on his sleeve and, barricade the goal, he is that man. But I don't see him being much else than that. I mean, I don't want to go off on a massive cross section about Mohamed Elneny, but are you pleased he's back, mate?
Oh, he's a character, isn't he? I know. He's very lucky to be still at the club, because he's not the absolute level that we claim that we are now at. However, I do feel that he will now become that sort of player that Holding was, where, like you said, if we're in a tight situation and we've got to, see this out, he will either come in and fill that at the 6 if Jorginho's not already on, or he might be deployed even as a fullback or a centre half, which he has done for Arsenal before. So I think he'll get his minutes that way, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, he's a useful player to have, and Phil Macker says there, he's never no, he hasn't let us down.
No,
It's completely fair, but
yeah,
also I think for us, it's just been a case of he's never been at that level to make us an elite football team, and I think that's a fair comment. He's a useful player, but he's not someone. If he started week in week out every single week, you would notice his lack of quality.
yeah. We
Um,
know what he is. He's one of them. It's a classic old phrase. He does exactly what he says on the tin type player. And if you're expecting him to pull up trees and be one of the best sort of players in the world, he's not that. But he's a solid, dependable sort of squad player, and you need them. You do. You need those sort of players, especially like we said earlier, if the game state dictates that at that sort of time. And he has come in and he has done a job. I mean, Chelsea, what was it? Chelsea away a couple of seasons ago. He's fantastic in that. One of the best games I've ever seen him play. But you can't rely on him for a sustained period of time. Here and there, he'll have his glimpses, but you can't be starting the guy or relying on the guy to give you absolute gold every single time.
It's funny you mentioned that Chelsea game because I actually remember when we went to United in the COVID year and we beat them 1-0. It was our first win at Old Trafford in the league in absolutely
Yeah,
ages. And he played like Perlo that night. That's
yeah.
no exaggeration. He
You
was
know who
unreal.
else was class in that game, mate? Willian. That was one of the best Arsenal games Willian had.
Yeah, it was.
He was superb in that Man United game.
And then shortly after that, we lost about 7 in a row or something. It was
Yes,
almost the
yeah.
end of Arteta's tenure. So we won't go back quite that far. But obviously, this is a preview for the Everton game. But this is a great point raised by Avon here. People will be expecting a major investment in a striker. I'm not personally expecting that. I think we could do with it, but I don't think it's necessarily an area of huge investment. But he also goes on to say that Partey is going to be in his last year. Jorginho, I think he'll probably be moved on next summer, to be honest, and El Neni will be out of contract, who I think we all expect to depart the club. I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal look to move on Partey next summer, to be honest. I don't think it'll be for a big fee, if a fee. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if his contract got torn up. Because I just, if he continues with these injuries, I can just see the club getting really tired of it. Obviously, we can raise some funds, that'd be great. But I think given his latest injury, I sense there's a feeling of impatience there somewhere, and we've got to start looking at a long-term solution. But midfield, as it was this summer, is going to be another area of reinvestment, isn't it, JJ?
Yeah, 100%. And I do agree. I believe that we will chuck big money on a centre forward next summer. Maybe even more than we spent on Declan Rice. I think as much as I love Jesus and as much as I appreciate Eddie and what Eddie's doing, and I am a fan of Eddie's, they're not going to get you 35 to 40 plus goals.
But who's out there?
I think we take a step. Tony Bloom was a guest during the Arsenal Man United game, and I feel that we've already started to make little sorts of tabs on Ferguson at Brighton. Or I could see us hopefully. The one I want is Osimhen from Napoli, James, and I tracked him when he was at Lille. I was like, this guy's special, and that was Pepe as well at the time. I thought Pepe was a very good player at the time as well. I think Moussa Diaby was there as well, and I was talking about him. They had a very good. I think Akone as well was a very, very good player back then. They just all of them were amazing, and but yeah, I do believe we are going to splash humongous on a striker. But in terms of the midfield, definitely feel we need to get a kind of 6. But I do believe that Patino coming back, I don't think he might be a 6, but he'll definitely play some minutes in the centre. And then you got Nanweri as well in there that's just going from strength to strength. So I think it's going to happen, mate. I think that we will probably buy not necessarily an absolute the levels of what Thomas Partey type of 6, because we've got Rice there now. I think Rice that is the future.
It's
He will
such a shame
become.
about Lavia, isn't it? I think he would have been perfect for us.
Yes, yeah, he would have been ideal. Yeah, he would have been a very, very ideal player.
Oh well, Chelsea. What can you do?
Well, you never know. We seem to buy Chelsea players when they don't want them anymore. I mean, they were offering us. Okay, I wouldn't have swapped Smith Rowe for Mudryk, but you've seen what they're like. You know, he's running that like it's an American franchise, and just every window they buy and sell whatever they want, and they do whatever they want. So you never know if Lavia has a terrible, terrible time there. We could end up, but I didn't think that we'd spend 60+ million on Havertz this summer. So stranger things have happened, mate. And we seem to always buy a Chelsea player in every window. It's peculiar.
Sign of the times, mate. Sign of the times. I'm
It
not saying
is.
they're the right investments, but
No, no.
if we can just kind of keep plucking away,
Yeah, and they are mental as much
they
as
are. You're not wrong.
they are absolutely mental, Chelsea.
I
So
mean, and here's hoping they don't make the Champions League, because if they don't, then they are in all sorts of bother. So that would be, a fantastic scenario. Maybe we could do a bit of window shopping depending on how the season goes. I wasn't actually planning on talking about this, but you already mentioned his name in Nicola Pepe. He's obviously gone to Turkey now, and I only want to spend a minute or two on him. But his time at Arsenal quite obviously didn't work out. Nowhere near as bad as some people have made him out to be, especially when you compare him to what's going on with Jadon Sancho at the minute, who cost even more money and has not really done anything in his United career yet. And then you've got Anthony that United have spent a fortune on, and I'm not taking his current legal issues into account, but he's not really flattered for them whatsoever. So I mean, in all the talk of flops out there, Pepe should not be top of the list. He should be up there. Don't think any of us are denying that, but he's not at the pinnacle. But all I was going to say was, we've torn up his contract, which I think is really disappointing. He's gone there injured, which might play a part in it, but he's not a talentless guy, JJ. I'm really amazed that we failed to get any sort of fee, and I'm
same.
even more amazed that there was zero interest in him.
Yeah. Again, sadly, and I feel bad because I'm making criticisms of the club, but we've shown our hand before in the window that we these players, when you publicly say that you don't want these footballers anymore, and the world knows it, you do tank their value. And there was so much, Sky all the time, filming the training. Oh, these are I called them the unmagnificent seven. They didn't want them. Nobody wanted them. And we were just like, it was like we were giving them away with cereal. Just someone, please take these footballers. And it just didn't work out. And the clubs knew that Arsenal were going to cancel his contract eventually, because we're going to want that money to reinvest in January. A new FFP window begins in January. So the one from the summer obviously diminishes and you get a new one. And having his money off the books wage-wise is enough to invest into somebody else. And you know what? I do agree with you. I think compared to, the world's most expensive Beyblade and Sancho, I think Pepe, I liked Pepe a lot. Arteta obviously went for Willian, and that was his first big signing in his first summer window. And Pepe just didn't get the minutes because Willian was playing, and then obviously you had the emergence of Saka as well. And it was gutting. I really liked Pepe and thought that he could be something here. And just in the end, when you know that you're not first choice, you're not going to be first choice. He didn't have the effort in the application. I mean, there was the video that Aubameyang and Lacazette took of him after the game, and he had all the chicken skewers and the big Pepsi, didn't they? And they were just like, look at this guy, look at this guy. And I'm like, that's going to go back to the manager, and the manager's not going to find it funny like me and you are laughing now. They're going to be like, why is this guy gorging on, goujons and chips and a 2-litre Pepsi? That's what I do. And I'm not being asked to play right wing for Arsenal every week. So
I've not seen that video, mate. You'll have to send that to me. I'm quite intrigued.
it was just literally after a game, and he's not a big guy, Pepe, but he just looks bloated, sat there, and he's got goujons or yakitori or something, but he's got loads of them, James, and then he's got a Pepsi Max like up to here, and he's just guzzling it, and they're like, this guy.
Oh, I'm gonna have to have a Google at that.
Yeah,
that sounds like my sort of content. But
oh, it's hilarious, but in terms of an athlete and what the expectations of an athlete are, you sat there going like, what are you doing, mate? What are you doing? Especially at that time when it was like you meant to be fighting for your place. I mean, this was a guy that Arteta spent the most one-on-one time with, and it just for that relationship to just completely diminish. And I think it was because Arteta sussed him out and was like, "You don't want it. You don't want it enough." And
Yeah, it must
also,
have
I
been an
think
attitude
someone put
thing.
it in the chat as well. The pressure of the fee, got to him big time, and it's not a shock that everyone that worked behind the scenes on that deal are all but gone now.
Yeah, and actually, we have got Vinay going next summer as well. I mean,
Yeah,
just before we talk about that, I mean, I will say on Pepe, um, disappointed not to get a fee. Disappointed it never worked out at Arsenal. I was so excited when he came, and I think he did have moments for us. But he looks so happy at his new club, whose name I'm not going to try and butcher. But I've seen the announcement video of him at the airport with all the fans around him, and he looks genuinely elated to be there. So I hope he smashes it and has a good last part of his career. But yeah, Vinay's leaving next summer, mate. I mean, that's not what I saw coming. I was at the Arsenal Supporters Trust meeting with him not too long ago, and he seemed very invested, very infused in Arsenal. Got to remember he's a businessman as well, and probably does want a new chapter in his career at some point. Don't think it's the be all and end all, but he's been a pretty good CEO for Arsenal. I think you'd agree.
yes, he's left Arsenal in a much better place than it was when he got handed the job, and I think he's always been an accountant. So to be the public face of everything, I think at first you saw that he was quite nervous about that role, but he definitely grew into it. And I personally haven't met him, but from everything that I've heard and from everything that I've seen, he's meant to be an absolute class act, James.
Yeah, at the AST meeting, he was going around with fans having a drink. Like, I know obviously that's a private event for members, but in the same token, he's a busy guy. He's probably had a really long day. He didn't have to do that. So, it's just little things like that that I think make a difference. But good luck to him, whatever he does in the next chapter of his career. Like you say, he's left Arsenal in a better
He's
place, and
probably got something cushy at the FA or the Prem lined up, mate. I don't know if he'll go to another club, but I could see him. I could see someone in the FA or especially the Premier League going, yeah, we like the look of you, mate. So
yeah, he's a very smart guy, very intelligent. Definitely got his head screwed on. And yeah, just those are the sort of people you want around Arsenal at the minute, because I think this is from top to bottom the most level-headed, intelligent group of people that we've got. When we had the likes of Raul Yeli in charge, I don't think I could say the same about him. But obviously, we've got this game coming up on Sunday. I feel like we've barely spoken about it, mate. Um,
sorry.
no, that's all right. There's been a lot to discuss. It's the international break, mate. There's been a lot that's happened that we've not quite waxed lyrical about. But obviously, one of the big talking points I've got written down here on my little agenda is Kai Havertz or Fabio Vieira. Now we'll get onto our predicted lineups in a moment, but I think this is the one that's really sticking out for a lot of people. Obviously, Vieira's come on in the past couple of games, looked electric, got assists. Good assists as well, really good assists. And I think a lot of people, myself included, are leaning towards him starting, especially when Kai Havertz got an assist for Germany. Didn't look particularly great in their first game, ended up getting subbed off for Thomas Muller. I think the worry I've got is you can't have passengers at Goodison Park. And I kind of worry about Havertz being a passenger. I have equal concerns about Fabio Vieira getting phased out of the game due to his lack of physicality. I don't know what to do, mate. I really don't. So that's why I'm coming to you.
Yeah, I think like Eddie, Vieira's a fantastic substitution to make in this game, especially when they're tired, because they're gonna leave space, and he is so good at finding space and finding people in very very tight spaces. Um, and again, yeah, that's the point I was just about to make. Physicality wise and presence wise, Havertz, he's 6'4" compared to the five whatever Fabio Vieira is. So I think he's an option, just like how I believe Everton are going to try and ping us along to that Beto. I'm not saying that Havertz should play up front, but in that left eight role, if he is to move slightly further forward, I think he's an option to ping and get people in behind. And after he's got an assist for Germany, he's another one. You got, you can tell it's all confidence related. I don't believe at the moment that this is purely a lack of talent. I just think his confidence is so shot, James, that he's just overthinking or panicking. And then you've got to also remember that he has played under God knows how many men. I couldn't tell you how many managers Chelsea have had since he's been there, but they all played him as a 9, and we're asking him to play a completely different role that he's not done for a very, very long time. And again, it's another new manager that wants it done in a certain way, and he's got to adapt to that as well. But I think Havertz will start, and I really do hope he has a good game, because he needs one. He needs one.
It's an interesting point in the chat room here from Yamara G, that Jesus and Havertz could make a good team. I think a lot of people have been of the opinion that with Jesus in the sides, Havertz will have more opportunities. If you've got, Jesus's hold-up play and then Havertz making those late runs into the box, I mean, that could definitely be a really good combination. Can you see it working?
Well, this is the thing, James, is that he's got to want it a bit more. I still believe that he doesn't, again, the confident, he's got to want it. Jesus, like I've said, he will hold that ball up and he will lay it off. But when Havertz receives it, especially if it's on the turn, I want to see him turn and beat a man, James. He seems to put his head down. Most of his passes, his head is down, and it's either back to Declan Rice or Zinchenko, or a little one to Martinelli. I want to see him progress. I want to see him turn and beat a man, and also get in the box. I've said it nearly all season. 6'4", James. Get in the box. Get in the box. It's like the guy. Wolves have that Kaladzic who's 6'7", yet they're still persisting with Fabio Silva. Fabio Silva's dreadful. Play the 6'7" guy and just press LT and triangle. Just ping him. For God's sake, it's not hard. Just get him in that box and, do something.
Yeah. It's I'd love to see him score. I'd be so happy. I mean, PG's put in the chat room there, Havertz will score on Sunday.
She's done Amanda's done a prediction. There we go.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? What these times we're living in.
It's warm in here.
I would love for him to get a goal, even an assist, whatever, win a penalty, whatever it may be, just something to give him that confidence boost, because he's not had a great time away on international duty. Obviously, his season so far with Arsenal has been very mixed. Definitely don't think he's been bad in all of these games. It's just these past two.
Oh, so someone's put in the chat. Yeah, we play Havertz will score Saturday in training. Amanda, yeah, he won't score in the game, but he'll score in training on the Saturday.
Yeah, you can't get out of that one, Amanda. You've already said it now. But yeah, it's going to be a big game for him if he does start. But equally, I mean, we've got this game coming up against PSV in the week. I think if he was to start that as well, if he still doesn't pull up any trees against Everton, start him there. Because that's a great opportunity for him to get himself on the score sheet, get an assist, whatever it may be. So yeah, going to be an interesting one. I was gutted to see Granit Xhaka score again for Switzerland. I've got to say, I'm really missing the guy. I'm trying not to think about him, but I still can't help but feel, what a well-oiled machine we would be if he was still in that left 8 role. I'm trying not to think about it. I'm not going to go there. But one last talking point around Havertz is I've seen a few people mute the idea of switching him and Ødegaard. So Ødegaard plays on the left, Havertz on the right. It was noted that Havertz got his assist for Germany coming off that right-hand side. Do you think that's a viable option, or do you think that could potentially disrupt our flow a little bit too much?
Yeah, it disrupts the flow for me. That relationship of White, Saka and Ødegaard is too important to then place Havertz there. I mean, Ødegaard's so good, he'll play wherever you put him. He's class, but I would not ruin that relationship of that right hand side, which has again served us so well, to accommodate Kai Havertz at the moment.
I think
you've bought him to be that left 8. Obviously, we're trying it until it does feel that we're trying it until it's going to be 5 weeks that we've tried to get it to work, and patience does wear thin. I understand that. But yeah, I wouldn't be chopping and changing it now at the moment. Just let's stick to what we've got. Let's get our wins and let's get our points, mate.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to note that Havertz and Martinelli have basically zero relationship at the minute. I think Martinelli passed the Havertz about 5 times in the last game. And, although we talk about Havertz being an issue, you've got to recognise that Martinelli is also playing a part in that as well. And they've got to, find a way of working together, because if they don't, then, both of them are going to become a little bit ineffective. And I don't think Martinelli has had a sensational start to the season by his standards. I thought he was very good against Man United, but in the other games, he's not quite been at the level we want him to be. But he's not been bad either. Certainly not been bad. But if those two can build a relationship, maybe with Jesus coming back into the side, because it's no coincidence that Martinelli's form hasn't quite been as good as we wanted it to be whilst Nketiah has started, because that happened at the exact same time last season when Eddie and Martinelli were playing together. His form dipped a little bit then. But before I ramble on a bit too long on this one, what is your predicted lineup for the game, mate? Or what is the lineup you want to see?
Okay, so Aaron Ramsdale, he's staying in goal for me. He won't get his clean sheet robbed by Maguire scoring an own goal. I thought he was very, very good against Scotland, apart from Maguire ruining it for him. Ben White, obviously, at right back. Saliba and Gabriel. Zinchenko, who I think is going to be very important as well in this game. I think when he inverts in and makes it a bit extra in the middle, that could cause us, that could draw someone out, and then that gives someone out wide a chance, or through the middle if we go that way. I believe it's going to be Declan Rice, obviously, because Partey's still injured. So Declan Rice at the 6. And then it's going to be Havertz, Odegaard, Jesus, Martinelli, and Saka.
I think it would be the same for me, to be honest. It's just the one question mark I've got is going to be over that Havertz one. I am itching for Fabio Vieira to start. I'm absolutely itching for it. But maybe, given that, as you mentioned before, we've got this game against PSV coming up, that's probably the one that is more of an appropriate fixture for him.
I'll throw something out there, James. If this Saka thing is more serious than what's been let on, I would say, instead of potentially shifting Jesus out there and having Eddie up top, I wouldn't mind playing Vieira on the right-hand side. I thought he did very well there pre-season when he played there.
Yeah, I mean, the beautiful thing is,
I know a lot of people think that's going to be Nelson's way now, but I don't know. I think he's a left footer, isn't he? Vieira as well. I think he'd fancy that on the right-hand side at the weekend.
Well, the great thing is, particularly on that right-hand side, I mean, people say we don't have options there. We absolutely do. If Saka was to get injured, option number one, you play Jesus out there, a role that he played many a time for Man City. He's played there for Brazil as well. You've got Leandro Trossard, who I think could play basically anywhere across that front three. I don't think he'd be out of sorts on the right by any means. Emil Smith-Rowe, a lot of people have disregarded that, but he's played there a lot for England at youth level, so I think that could be an option. And then, of course, you've got Reece Nelson, who's also an option there. So, yeah, plenty to ponder, plenty to think about. Obviously, those are all hypotheticals. Whether they actually work on a football pitch remains to be seen. But hopefully, this Achilles problem for Bukayo is nothing major. Players have problems a lot of the time. It's just a case of playing through them, and they can have those problems their entire careers. But actually, interesting question from Yamara G. Would you play Vieira or Reece Nelson before you started Trossard? Let's say that's a hypothetical before the game on PSV.
On the right-hand side, yeah. I don't think Trossard's as effective on the right-hand side as he is either down the middle or on the left. Either that being left wing or left 8, because he can do both. He can play in the centre as well.
But let's say in the case of Reece Nelson, for example, I think he's most dangerous coming off the left. I'm not sure
I think he's better off the right.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. I think he's pretty good on both wings, but I just think he's got that little bit more where he cuts inside, that bit more dynamism to his game on the left-hand side. But then equally, he had that fantastic game against Notts Forest playing on the right-hand side, and Saka went off quite early injured. So, I mean, look, we have got options there. We've definitely got food for thought. But look, mate, I'm going to draw this to a close. But before I do, score prediction for the game.
I'm going to go for a very nervy 2-0 win. I think we'll make hard work of this, but we'll get it done.
Who are your scorers?
I've got to remember from my podcast the other day. I said Odegaard would get one. because he's just that kind of guy. He's just a clutch kind of guy. And then I don't know, James. Go on, pluck someone out for me.
Eddie off the bench.
Yeah, go on then.
Yeah, why
Yeah, we'll
not?
have some of
Why
that.
not? I
We'll
mean,
have some of that.
my dream would be El Neni coming off the bench scoring a bicycle kick, but
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen somehow. But yeah, look, we've got plenty of options, plenty to be excited about. I'm buzzing for football to be back this weekend. You know, it's only been 2 weeks, but it feels like it's been bloody ages. So,
It's
yeah,
proper football as well.
I can't wait. And
Yeah.
you know, we've got another international break in a month's time, so let's
Oh,
just relish
really?
this. Yeah, I know they're coming around
Oh,
thick and fast,
God.
but the beautiful thing is, mate, although some people are complaining about it, we've got back-to-back Arsenal these next couple of
Yeah.
weeks. You
Yeah, I
know,
know.
PSV in the
I know.
week, North London derby
Who
after that,
who
Brentford after
think
that.
I bet you don't even know, but who have we got in this next international break? Because obviously one of them's gonna be a qualifier, and it's gonna be another friendly. I bet it's someone absolutely terrible, isn't it?
Let me tell you, mate. Let me tell you. I'll have a quick Google. I've got no interest in
No, same.
international football,
But
really.
that'll be it. That'll be a night I wash my hair. I think whoever that.
Well, actually, it's two pretty exciting fixtures. On the 13th of October, England Australia, um, but the spicy one, Euro qualifiers, England Italy, on the 17th.
Oh, okay. Oh,
So
fair enough.
yeah,
Okay, that's not bad then.
and then you'll be
That's not
pleased to
bad.
hear, JJ, a month later after that, we've got another international break.
Oh God.
Yeah, with two very exciting fixtures against Malta and North Macedonia.
Oh no,
So
that would definitely be when I bulk buy the Tresemme. Then that'll be the hair washing
yeah,
sessions. Yeah.
it peaks in October, and then it goes quite quickly downhill in November. But you know,
Oh
at least we've got
God.
a semi-exciting qualifier to
Yeah.
look forward to against
Yeah,
Italy.
and all the Liverpool and Man City players will be rested, but he'll play all of ours apart from Eddie. You know it. I know it. Ours will
Yeah,
be running the ground, but
Eddie won't even get called up for
yeah.
the next one, mate. I'd be amazed if
No,
he does.
yeah, no, he probably won't. He'll put Maguire up front because his mum's told him. That's unbelievable, mate. I know it's rough and everything else, but to get your mum to come out for you, like, no.
Yeah, I mean it's.
Say it yourself.
I mean, not that we're going to go off on a tangent about Harry Maguire here, but I mean, God Almighty,
Southgate's fault.
yeah,
Shouldn't be picking him. Take him out the firing line.
I do feel bad for him, and you know, as funny as it
Yeah,
was
same.
when he came on against us at the Emirates, and people were applauding it. Um, you know, you got to think from a human being point of view, he must be just mentally just all over the place. He never should have got that call up for England. You know, he's hardly kicked a ball. He's not even kicked a ball for United, apart from when he came on against us. And yeah, I'm not going to deny, been a very important player for England.
Yeah,
But
if his mum wanted to do him a favour, turn his phone off so that he doesn't get the call up. That would have helped him.
yeah. And I mean, even to bring him on in that game against Scotland, you know, is bizarre in itself. But you know, he seems to be a Southgate favourite, and I really do think he will go to the tournament next summer. I don't think he should. And
Oh,
when
he'd
you've got
probably be
someone,
he'd be like one of the captains, mate.
oh, but this is the thing: when you've got Ben White waiting in the wings, and I know you don't care about him getting called
No,
up,
I
but
do not care.
it bothers me when I see Harry Maguire getting called
Oh,
up, and you've got a player of Ben White's ability, you know, there at home when this is one of the best England teams I've ever thought of. And you know, Yamara G makes a great comment in the chat room. It's the same for Calvin Phillips. Why is he getting called up?
yeah, but
It's the same for so many of these guys.
he was great against Scotland though. Calvin Phillips had a brilliant game.
Did he start?
Yeah, yeah,
It did. This England team is just
I
mental.
know, I know.
I
But
can't I can't even.
he looked really really good. I have to say, and that relationship with him and Rice, they're very good together.
Oh, maybe a
You put
little bit of
you put them two in a double pivot with Bellingham in behind, mate. Special.
maybe we've got to go raiding at Man City again in January. But look, we'll leave that for another time. JJ, thank you as always for coming on the show tonight, mate.
Oh, thank you.
I won't say the usual thing of where can people find you. We know by now
I
it's your
hope
Twitter handle.
I hope they know by now.
It's there on the screen. It's the James Johnston Football Channel. Make sure you follow him. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. He's putting out great stuff. All round lovely bloke. Make sure you get involved. But I think that's it. So unless you've got anything else, mate, I will leave it there.
No, no, thank you very much. And just quickly as well, I saw Fiona in the chat earlier. And yeah, I know Fiona's posted some news earlier, so I just wish her well and everything with what's going on. She's been absolutely great in terms of supporting this channel, supporting my channel, and she supports everybody. It's great. And she got a lovely letter from did you see that from Declan Rice earlier? Sent a letter out to her.
Oh, did she? No, I've
Yeah,
not
with a
seen
nice
that.
card signed by the player. Yeah, she deserves it.
Oh,
I like good things happening to good people, James. I'm one of the as I've got older, I'm less of a miserable bastard, and uh, I'm getting soft with my old age. But yes, no, thoroughly deserved. So
I'm really pleased
good
to
on
hear
you,
that.
Fiona.
It's lovely the club have done something like that, particularly Declan Rice. I'll make sure to check that
Yeah,
out right away. And just to echo that, hope you're doing well, Fiona. Hope everything's going okay for you. And yeah, if you ever need any support, feel free to reach out to any of us at the Same Old Arsenal. But on that, I will leave it there. We are back. Myself and Chris are back at some point after the United game. I think the plan is to go live straight after the match. Straight-ish after the match, maybe like an hour or two later. Don't have a definitive time yet, but I'm sure we'll keep you posted. Amanda's on our case all the time to give you times for when we get the shows out. So we will find a
and you'll
date.
be on time this time. You won't have to worry about me being late.
No, technical difficulties, mate. Technical
I
difficulties.
know. Sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. I was doing an Arsene Wenger for you there. But yeah, and then we will be back. It's Tuesday, isn't it, that we're doing the show for PSV?
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Excited.
Lovely stuff. May have to do it a little bit later. I don't know if it works for you. I know I'm talking about
Just
stuff
let
we
me
should be
know.
talking about off air, yeah, but maybe have to do
6
like
long years, James, to talk about Champions League football. I think I'll do it at midnight if you want to do it, my friend. 6 bloody years we've waited.
Well, I'll keep you posted on that one, mate. But we'll be doing a preview show at some point on Tuesday, maybe around 8ish, 9 o'clock. I'll let you know.
Yeah.
But
Do one of them. Alexa, play the theme from the Champions League, and we'll just have that on a loop until we get bored.
no chat, just the Champions
yeah,
League
exactly.
theme.
Just the music.
And you know what? It'll be our highest ranking podcast of the season so far.
Yeah.
But
We'll
yeah,
have to put the shirts from this season on, mate, and just stand there with our hands behind our backs like we're actually lining
just
up.
looking to the sky.
Yeah, we'll just do that.
Oh god, I can't wait to be back at the Emirates next week. Look, let's save it for the preview of that one, mate. I can't wait, but equally, I can't wait for this game at Goodison Park. It's going to be a sticky one at the Toffees, but yeah, I think we've got enough to do it. JJ's going for a 2-0. I'm going for a 4-0. Let's get it done. So thank you to everyone that's joined us in the chat room. Please subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video if you've enjoyed it, and as always, up the Arsenal. See you guys later. Bye bye.